Good evening, Wakefield, and welcome to this public forum co-hosted by the Wakefield School Committee and the WCAT on this Thursday, February 25th, 2021. I'd like to call this public forum to order and note that this is being broadcast live on WCAT's Facebook page. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the reading of our mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident, lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. I just want a quick overview. The purpose of this public forum is to give residents of Wakefield the opportunity to share their perspectives with the school committee on the current use of the Wakefield Warrior name and the Wakefield Warrior logo. I would now like to take this time to pass it off to Bill Carroll, our town moderator, to briefly explain the ground rules. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Amy. Thank you. I've been asked by the school committee to moderate this public forum. We're going to have some ground rules here that have been decided ahead of time, which I will enforce strictly, as any town meeting participants or debate participants know. Let me run through these. In the beginning, each speaker needs to identify himself by name and address, not unlike town meeting. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak, okay? That's it, 3 minutes, okay? Can't get it done in 3 minutes. And what will happen is at the 20-second mark, the numbers will be on the screen. At the 20-second mark, I will give you a verbal warning, not unlike the debates you've watched or town meeting. I'll say 20 seconds. At the end of 3 minutes, that's it. You're gone. Mute, okay? It's not personal, it's math, okay? 3 minutes. The chat box will be disabled to give consideration and attention to the speaker. I guess you raise your hand so that the control room down here at CAT can acknowledge you and get you in line. It says here that I'm giving discretion at any point to manage the forum. Yeah, that's a given. And we're going to end this at 9 o'clock. I won't cut somebody off at 9 o'clock, but we'll start. If you're in the middle of your 3 minutes, we're going to give you until 9 o'clock to do that. The other things I have to note here, if you're on the phone and not coming in on Zoom, you're going to have to give me a few seconds to get your name and address. That won't cut into your time. And another thing that I'm a Luddite, but I'm going to try and read this off. So that everyone can participate, if you've already spoken, okay, on Zoom, it would be preferred if you were to continue to get off Zoom and continue to watch via Facebook Live or on WCAT, okay? With that, I think we'll take the first participant. I'm going to be communicating with Ryan Boyd, the director down here at CAT, so we'll... Amy, you're anything else, Amy, that you have? You have to unmute yourself, Amy.
Trying. Thank you. I'm all set.
You're all set? No, yeah, Ryan, she's okay. Yeah, okay. The first person up, Ryan. Okay. Okay, Alyssa Toppy. Alyssa Toppy, you're up.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Toppy and I live at 53 Greenwood Ave. Although I'm a member of Wakefield's Youth Council, I want to make it clear that I'm speaking on my own behalf as a current senior at Wakefield High. As many have expressed over the past weeks, the Warrior logo is a source of pride in Wakefield. As a student athlete, I share this sentiment. Everything the logo stands for brings me immense pride as well. There's nothing wrong with being prideful of the strong, hard-working, and resilient nature of Wakefield High students and graduates. The use of the logo itself, however, is not the only way to maintain this pride. Many schools in Massachusetts and around the country have fostered the growth of similar student bodies and community pride without imagery that has the potential to offend. To those who are concerned that the values of Wakefield High School may change with our logo, I want to assure you that should the logo change, the Warrior community will not suffer any consequences. The Wakefield Warrior community and spirit face no threat from change. Let us embrace this dialogue and process respectfully and embrace any changes if they come. Though I can only speak based on my own opinions and interactions, I'd like to take this opportunity to express that those advocating to change the logo, including myself, are not attempting to erase Indigenous people from the history of our town, state, and country. We're not speaking out in the name of political correctness. We don't believe that changing a logo will right generations of wrongs done to Indigenous communities and allow us to turn the page on history. We do, however, want to take this opportunity to address past wrongs by reckoning with the effects of our actions, which includes addressing the use of Indigenous likeness as a logo. I believe the time has come for Wakefield to reckon with the past in Massachusetts and America. The way past generations treated Indigenous people is appalling and shameful. This must be recognized and discussed in our community moving forward. In recognizing these abuses, many will feel the urge to honor Indigenous people. Romanticizing them in a logo, though, is not an appropriate way to do that. It's been made clear by members of Indigenous communities in our region and throughout the country that doing so is demeaning to their experiences and dismissive of their community struggles. We must respect their calls for change. In reckoning with our country's past to move forward as a better society, education is necessary, both on the Warrior logo and the history of Indigenous experiences and treatment in our country, state, and town. I want to encourage everyone who may not have yet taken the time to educate themselves to do so, regardless of their stance on the Warrior. With education comes the responsibility of thoughtful and respectful discussion, which I hope the Wakefield community is able to foster going forward while this issue is decided. In discussing the logo, we must make sure views from all perspectives are heard and respected. As I respect those who support the logo, I ask that anyone who disagrees with me respect my opinion just the same.
20 seconds.
In the end, we're all Wakefield Warriors. Let us set a precedent of proper, respectful discourse for future Warriors. Thank you.
You know, before I go with the next person, I got a little ahead of myself here and forgot to probably set out the primary rule. This is going to be conducted with civil discourse, okay? No personal remarks, no denigrating the opposition. The idea here is for you to put forth your argument as to why, to support your position, okay? And trust me, if somebody gets off the rails, I'll use the same thing I do at town meeting and say back on topic. And if you continue, you'll be history. Okay, next up we have Nicole Calabrese, I believe. Is that correct, Ryan? Okay, thanks. Nicole. It's like a talk show. Nicole? Okay. There you are. There you are, Nicole. You're starting now. Ready?
Nicole Calabrese, 40 Friend Street. Graduated from Wakefield High School. System. Our parents live in Wakefield, as do our siblings, our nieces and nephews, and we've all either passed or are passing through the Wakefield school system and its sports programs. We all know and love Wakefield's history, and we're even more excited for its future. I'm here tonight to voice my support for the new logo created by the high school art department. The conversation about whether or not the current logo is problematic is not unique to Wakefield. It's a national discussion that's been going on for decades, and frankly, I don't even think it's a conversation that we should be having.
Nicole, you may want to turn off your video because you're breaking up and just go with your audio, okay?
Perfect.
There you go. Yeah.
Their likeness in our school's logos. It's their likeness, so I believe that we have to listen and take action immediately. There's evidence that images like our warrior hurts people, and the very people who are hurt are asking us to change it, and for good reason. Regardless of its intent, which I know was well-meaning, logos like ours harm Native students. There's research that proves this type of imagery has psychological and social consequences on all of our students. They normalize culturally insensitive behaviors, and most importantly, it decreases the self-worth of Native students. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for Native teens and young adults. It's 2.5 times the national average. I'm not a doctor, but I think it feels pretty obvious that the more someone's self-worth decreases, the more likely they'd be to harm themselves. And I'm not suggesting that embracing a new logo will solve some of these problems, but I am suggesting that a new logo certainly won't make them any worse. More importantly, it sends a strong message that we listen to Native Americans, we listen and we take action when people cry out for help. And that's the Wakefield I'm proud to be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I think we have Maria Muti. Is that correct? Okay, Maria Muti, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Just state your name and address just so we have it.
Hi there, Maria Muti, 34 Hopkins Street. My name is Maria Muti, and I am the chair of the Wakefield Human Rights Commission. And with the overwhelming support of the board, I am here to speak on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. First, I'd like to acknowledge that our community sits upon the ancestral lands of the Pawtucket people and the Namkeg tribe of the Massachusetts Confederacy. After epidemics,
What's that last name? Sorry.
After epidemics, settler colonization, wars, and enslavement, we now know this land is Wakefield. We acknowledge the profound and lasting impact the Native cultures and nations of the Northeast have made on our country's past, present, and future. We are thankful to the many Native people who have contributed their scholarship, expertise, time, and emotional energy to the conversation we are having today. The Human Rights Commission supports the removal of all school logos with Native American imagery from non-Native schools. We take this stance based on two major factors. First, we are deferring to the collective voices of those most harmed. And second, this issue is a human rights issue, and under our mission statement, we have a moral mandate to support human rights. Multiple Indigenous nations in our area have called for the removal of Native American sports logos and mascots. These include the Chappaquiddick tribe of the Wampanoag Nation, the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, the Massachusetts tribe at Ponkapog, and the Nipmuc Nation, among others. Indigenous individuals, like all individuals, have a variety of personal stances on this topic, so we've looked to the official statements of these local nations to teach us the overall positions that they hold. These various nations express consensus around the fact that Native sports logos are harmful to Native youth who have been shown to suffer psychological and social harm as a result of stereotypical and inaccurate depictions of Native people and cultures. Harm including stress, negative feelings, lowered self-esteem, and less future aspiration among Native American students. Regarding the Native logo as a human rights issue, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights captures the fact that the right to freedom from discrimination and the right to education are basic human rights. Since the research on Native American sports logos shows that they create hostile educational environments for Indigenous students, this can be seen as a violation to their right to an education free from discrimination. It is essential for our government to protect the civil and human rights of people who represent a minority of our current population, especially when that minority status is due to the past actions of our government. We recognize and acknowledge the very real feelings of those who are advocating to keep the warrior logo. But in deciding upon the human rights of oppressed and marginalized people, the psychological and social harm to Native Americans must be the factor we heed most. We know that there has been no intent to harm Native Americans through the use of Wakefield's Native American logos. But considering the clear guidance we hear from Indigenous
20 seconds.
And the importance of preserving the human rights of oppressed groups, the Wakefield Human Rights Commission urges the school committee to take the necessary steps to remove all Native American imagery from current use in our school sports logos. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jennifer Batcher. Okay. Jennifer. Jennifer, in the times of COVID broadcasting. Here we are. Jennifer, you're up.
Disconnected me and said I was rejoining. All right.
Your name and
Can I-
street number, street address.
Yeah, thank you. I lost my thing. I'm Jennifer Betcher. I live at 25 Wakefield Ave, and I want to say I'm speaking on my own behalf and not for any groups I'm affiliated with. And thank you for creating this forum so we can share our perspectives. I sent in a more formal letter with data from many organizations who have put forward resolutions, policies, and statements against the use of Native American logos, nicknames, and mascots. There are decades of social science research that show that all these types of Native American symbols reinforce stereotypes and are harmful to both Native American and non-Native youth. Many communities have moved away from using these types of images because of this data and the advocacy of indigenous groups who have spoken out. However, tonight in my 3 minutes, I want to focus on our schools and their core values. I find it difficult to reconcile the messages of inclusion, respect, and kindness that my children are learning at the Woodville School with the continued use of this logo at the high school. The core values that are consistent across the elementary, middle, and high school levels are to respect each other and celebrate our differences. I've listened to reports about curriculums and watched presentations from diversity leaders about how much we're embracing and teaching concepts like multiculturalism and integrating diverse perspectives, yet our high school logo still perpetuates negative stereotypes of a group of marginalized people. We are sending mixed messages. At Woodville, one of the core values is to show school spirit. Their motto is Paws Up, and it's so empowering and it builds community that they can have a shared identity as Woodville Bears and roar together. As a parent, I welcome and encourage the school spirit and how it manifests on their t-shirts, card magnets, and even custom masks. I don't want their school spirit to diminish as they make their way to high school. However, I don't feel comfortable with them wearing the current Wakefield High School logo on their clothing. This is not said to shame or blame anyone who does show their warrior pride. We should all be proud of our schools, our sports teams, and our community. But showing school spirit should not come at the expense of a nation of human beings who have asked us to stop using their likeness to represent our schools and sports teams. Once we know better, we should do better. I found a quote in a PSA from 1998, that's 23 years ago, that conveys my concern about the mixed messages our logo is sending to our kids and our community and external community. The Wisconsin Youth Mascot and Logo Task Force said in 1998, in an age where we are teaching our children to be morally responsible and racially sensitive, we cannot continue to let this form of institutional racism be a matter of choice, end quote. If we truly want to live the core values of the Wakefield Public Schools, we should respect the wishes of the marginalized on the matters that most directly impact them. If we read the position statements from Native groups, we will see that they are in overwhelming agreement that Indigenous logos and imagery should be removed, regardless of their positive intent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, I believe we have Will Thompson.
Sorry, yeah, it did the same to me of disconnecting. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Name and address, please.
Will Thompson at 65 Prospect Street.
Okay, you're up.
Great. Sorry. I wanted to say a few words tonight because I've actually changed my opinion somewhat about the Warrior logo. I haven't changed my position on the issue. I still support a new logo, but I think I really didn't try to understand why people were so passionate. I didn't go to Wakefield High, and I think I dismissed people's attachment to the symbol too easily, which I think I was wrong about. So as a thought experiment, I considered how would I feel if there were a campaign against my high school's logo, which was an image of a mermaid with a sword. I don't know if you can see that. Obviously, mermaids are not stereotyped or oppressed, but the image is literally cultural appropriation. The school took the symbol from the city seal of Warsaw, Poland, and like the warrior, there's a personal story about its origin. The founder of the school had served as an officer in World War II, and post-war, he spent a large part of his early adulthood in Poland. So I'm imagining a campaign to change the mermaid. And to be honest, my first response was purely defensive. That's BS, apologies to the FCC. There's nothing wrong with it. My response felt a lot like those who are angry about the logo change here in Wakefield. And I should say that surprised me. I didn't love my high school and I don't feel a sense of pride in it, so why would I feel defensive about its logo? I think we don't experience logos as symbols for the school. We take the symbols for ourselves. They're part of a feeling of belonging, particularly in formative moments in life. It's no accident that colleges invest millions of dollars in trademark protection of their logos. Continuing to think about it, I said to myself, but what if for whatever reason, other people saw the school symbol as an insult? Well, I don't agree. The mermaid was chosen to honor the spirit of Warsaw under Nazi siege. Okay, but I wondered, would there be anything that could change my mind? So I thought, what if the people who the symbol originally belonged to were offended by it? And not just like if one Polish American said they didn't like it, but what if the city of Warsaw and the government of Poland specifically issued an official statement to tell us that? So if that happened, I realized no matter whether I personally believed that the mermaid honored the connection to them, I would have to say yes, replace it. And that's what is happening here. All the federally recognized Native American tribal governments around the country, and specifically the 5 whose traditional territory makes up our part of Massachusetts, those tribal organizations have all said that the Indian head logo is offensive and hurtful. They are asking us to change it. And to honor them is to honor that request. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Dubow.
Hi, my name is Jack DeBow. I live at 64 Aborn Ave. Good evening. Before I begin, I would like just to preface my statement by saying that I'm not speaking for the Wakefield Youth Council or on behalf of any of the Wakefield Council members. I'm here today at my own agency to express my own opinion on this issue. I lived here in Wakefield for over 15 years. I grew up in the public schools, playing town baseball, basketball, and soccer. I represented Wakefield at the Democratic State Convention in the past 2 years and the chair of the Wakefield Youth Council. I'm here today because I love Wakefield. I love the pride that our residents have in our town and the values that we hold. However, I believe that the use of the Wakefield Warrior logo does not represent these values. The use of the Warrior logo actively uses harmful stereotypes of Native people and does not honor Native people, but rather dehumanizes them. According to the National Congress of American Indians, and I quote, specifically, rather than honoring Native people, these caricatures and stereotypes are harmful, perpetuate negative stereotypes of America's first people, and contribute to a disregard for the personhood of Native peoples, end quote. And according to the American Psychological Association, I quote, research has shown that the continued use of American Indian mascots, symbols, images, and personalities has a negative effect on not only American Indian students, but all students, by undermining the educational experience of members of all communities, especially those who have had little or no contact with Native people, and they establish an unwelcome and oftentimes hostile learning environment for American Indian students that affirm negative images and stereotypes that are promoted in mainstream society, end quote. In 2005, the APA called for all Native mascots images to be replaced because of how harmful they are to education and the school community. It has taken Wakefield 16 years to even start the process of changing the logo, and honestly, that's embarrassing. The research shows that Native mascots not only harm Native students, but all students. I believe that this town should listen to the experts and replace the Warrior logo. In the last session of the General Court, the State House voted to create a commission to change the state seal and the state flag. The seal and the flag use a depiction of Native persons that has been rightfully criticized by tribes in the state. The State House is also working on legislation to prohibit the use of Native mascots and logos in all schools. This legislation will likely pass in the next few years, and I believe that it would be better if our town changed our logo on our own accord in our own way, rather than it being forced to by the state. Overall, I believe the Warrior logo should be changed. It's time that Wakefield moves towards the future, not going backwards. We can express our strength, pride, and resilience through other means. We can express our values through our attitude, character, and a new logo. There's no need to keep an offensive logo that actually actively harms students. I'm not speaking up to be politically correct here. I'm speaking up because it's the right thing to do. I want Wakefield to be on the right side of history, and that starts with changing the logo. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is, I hope we're pronouncing this right, Lauren Boyce. Is that correct? Lauren? Hi, Lauren. Can you state your name and address, please?
Yes, I'm Lauren Boyce, and I live at 339 Lowell Street in Wakefield. I'm 16 years old and a junior at Wakefield Memorial High School. I'm also the vice chair of the Wakefield Youth Council. I'm not speaking on behalf of my fellow council members tonight, but as an individual and current student in the Wakefield Public Schools. This discussion in Wakefield is part of a nationwide conversation about the damaging effects of reducing cultures to an image. The logo does not honor Indigenous people, nor does it educate anyone about their history. The use of any image of an Indigenous person as a logo is a conscious act of cultural appropriation and creates a tolerance of harmful stereotyping. Wakefield strives to be an inclusive and respectful community. However, depicting an Indigenous person as the Wakefield Warrior logo contradicts these values. Many members of our community are concerned that retiring the Warrior logo will strip Wakefield of its pride and leave behind generations of legacy. I think we can all agree that this pride stems from strength, respect, and resilience that we all have within us. Our pride and our accomplishments as individuals and as a community will not be diminished or erased if the logo changes, nor will future Wakefield Warriors have any less pride in their experiences and achievements if the school's logo does not contain Indigenous imagery. Right now, it is time for all voices to be heard through civic participation, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to share my thoughts and hear the opinions of others. It is time for the current Warriors to pave the way for future Warriors, who I hope will grow up in a cohesive and respectful community that lives by its values. As individuals, we can do better. As a community, we can do better. We must take action to be better. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan, is it Ann or Dan? Oh, Ann. Ann Fortier? Oh, okay. Ann Fortier is up next. Ready?
Yes.
Ann Fortier, where are you? There you are. Okay. You want to, and you're gone again. Ann, you want to state your name and address?
Of course, yes. Ann Fortier, 78 Greenwood Avenue. First, I'd like to applaud the thorough and conscientious work that our youth council put forth when they brought up the discussion of the Wakefield Memorial High School logo. They suffered some pushback, but handled it beautifully. And I'm grateful that these young people are tackling the issues that impact the youth in our community. Like words, symbols matter. A symbol shares a story that can be interpreted in a variety of ways. Wakefield Memorial High School's logo symbolizes tradition, strength, and pride to some. For others, it is a symbol of a widely tolerated but dangerously stereotypical view of Native people. I side with the opinion of the latter. In the September 2019 Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, the authors state, stereotypic mascots have the capacity to reinforce harmful stereotypes of Indigenous populations in ways that constrain the representation of these peoples in contemporary society and relegate them as artifacts of the past. Artifacts. Artifacts are not people. Artifacts are things with no feelings, no sense of personhood, no pride. When our children view the logo, they don't connect it to the peaceful hunter-gatherer nations who once inhabited this area. They don't connect it to the Native peoples who live in the 21st century. Instead, they see a cartoon. This is not a human being. It's a caricature. I think of the Indigenous children and wonder how they feel when non-Native people attempt to portray them by using imagery that is often far from historically correct, using movements that diminish the sacredness of their culture, and seeing these people focus solely on the notions of war and fighting while ignoring the other aspects of their heritage. I suspect that this one-dimensional depiction of their family and community probably feels pretty bad. But studies, and we've heard that earlier, have shown over and over again that the effects are harmful to their developing senses of self-worth. While I understand that some traditions are important, keeping this logo does not outweigh those negative outcomes. Traditions change, and sometimes change happens because our worldview has widened, and we realize that our own perspectives are not the only ones that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I believe we have Dan Lieber. Daniel, name and address, please.
Thank you very much. Daniel Lieber, 1 Elm Street. Thank you to the school committee for the opportunity to have this forum and hear from interested community members. Thank you to Bill Carroll for moderating. The Wakefield Warrior logo is personal to my family. We have members of our family who are Native American. They've educated me and my family as to why the logo is patently offensive and inappropriate. It's simple. They see it as a mockery of themselves. My daughter, who attends Wakefield Memorial High School, understands this and finds it offensive as it demeans her young cousins. That's not who she is. It's not who we are as a community. When my daughter received an email from a staff member with a Native American logo deliberately attached asking how she was doing in school, she lost confidence in the staff member's ability to listen to her effectively. She had to seek out another adult for answers to relevant questions. My daughter is considering joining a high school sport. If the team uniform is a logo, she knows it will demean her cousins, and that is a significant and meaningful harm to our family should she want to participate. To put the burden on my daughter of whether to participate knowing she'd be perpetuating a harm is just not right for our public schools. It's also unnecessary. As many others state, the Wakefield Warrior spirit is about being strong. The positive feelings are in the spirit, not depicted nor expressed in the logo itself. Our current Wakefield Memorial High School logo is just not appropriate to use going forward. We each deserve respect. My younger daughter, the Galvin suit, is uncomfortable wearing anything with the logo, including items she's previously received. She doesn't want to see something that she knows now racially depicts people, let alone her own cousins, as mean, angry individuals. Our schools undergo change regularly. The logo can be retired from active use. As has been done in the past, the logo can be replaced and items updated over time can use a new logo. The current Native American imagery will remain where it belongs, in our history, in our museum, in our libraries, as part of the legacy of our town. We're not a community of people who want to cause harm. As a school district, it's not appropriate for us to actively promote harm against people. We can do better. As a school, perhaps as a community, we can come up with a logo that does not depict humans or misappropriate cultural symbols. This can indeed preserve the name Warriors and the positive attributes that can be associated with it. We can do the right thing. Please preserve our history for the lessons learned and remove the Native American imagery from continued active use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Elizabeth Daly Ortega.
Good evening. My name is Liz Daly Ortega. I live at 50 Plymouth Road. I'm a parent of 2 school-aged children as well as an educator. I'm also the co-facilitator of an equity team at my own school. Equity is at the core of the work that I do with my own family, as well as students, families, educators in the community in which I work. This is why I wanted to take this opportunity to offer my support in changing the Wakefield Warrior logo. The vision statement for the district reads, and we started with in this meeting, WPS graduates are confident, lifelong learners who are respectful and caring members of their community. As a parent and educator, I share this commitment and feel that the school department, as well as the school committee, have a duty to model this work by acknowledging the need to change the logo. In order to model this, we as adults are also lifelong learners. It's important to point out where missteps may have been made and where we can make changes as we learn. I've been made aware that high school has done some work surveying staff and peers, and that there's been some logo redesigns in the works that would better reflect the mission for the district. As presented by the Youth Council back in October, quote, the use of Native American sports mascots, logos, or symbols perpetuates stereotypes of American Indians that's very harmful. The warrior savage myth has plagued this country's relationship with Indian people as it reinforces the racist view and has contributed to the destruction of Indian culture, end quote. This issue is not unique to Wakefield or to this moment in time. Native American mascot controversy has been around since the 1960s. Most recently, issues ranging from the image on the Massachusetts state flag to the name of our Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, have all been called into question. At the local level, the Youth Council has asked the school committee for their support in changing the logo in order to be more inclusive as well as respectful to all learners in our community. Quite frankly, this change is long overdue. However, as we all know, change can be hard. Yet this change and possible feeling of nostalgia for things that once were are no excuse to keep an image that's racist and perpetuates the stereotype of a group of people who have historically been marginalized. At the heart of this issue is the stereotyping of any one group, whether positive or negative, that the promotion of false or misleading associations between a group and an attribute can foster disrespect and have a lasting negative impact. As a white woman, I'm not here to speak on behalf of Indigenous people. As I stated in my public comment back in August, I'm not suggesting that the creation of the name or logo was done with malicious intent. However, The intent is not in question. The impact on our students, families,
20 seconds.
and visitors can be harmful and therefore problematic. It's well beyond time to make the change. As stated in the June 4th letter from the department, as a community, we must ensure our shared values are reflected in the work that we do.
You're all done. Thank you. Thanks.
Must work for everyone. Thank you.
Next, we have Ginny. I don't have her last name. Ginny?
Hi. Virgin.
Ginny, what's your name? Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Virginia Waterman. I'm at 108 Pleasant, and it's my daughter, Nivea, who's actually going to be speaking.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Nivea Waterman, and I'm an 8th grader at the Galvin Middle School. And personally, I think that we should keep our logo, but I have a lot of reasons why. I feel that it's not fair that we are the tiebreaker for a cause that really has nothing to do with us. In all honesty, like, this is our town and things like that. But if we're so worried about trying to be like nice to everybody and nice to the people that we think we're offending, shouldn't we just ask them? I don't think it's fair that we have to make this decision when it would be easier just to ask American Indians what they think and let them decide. And I feel like, personally, I think the logo is like a beautiful thing, and I think that it's stereotypical to look at a warrior and think that means bad things. I think that it's racist to look at a warrior and think that means that they're like savage or bad. Like, hearing things like that makes me so sad, because personally, when I look at the logo, I see someone who's strong, beautiful, kind-hearted, and powerful. And like, I feel like the logo has nothing to do with the stigma that we're creating. I think it's the people, which isn't fair.
And tell them about Vicky and Sabrina.
Yeah, I have a lot of close people to me and my family, and like, they're kind of like disgusted by this, like,
and they're
they're American Indians, and like, it's frustrating to them, me, and many other people that like this is a discussion that we have to have
right now in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, like right now in the middle of the pandemic, it's just like not fair. And I feel like also another issue is we're saying that we want everyone to be a part of this conversation and be able to talk about it. But when I went to school, after talking about my opinion last time on the other Zoom call, I was told I wasn't allowed to talk about it. And I wasn't pushing my opinion, nothing like that. My teachers congratulated me for speaking up in what I believe in. And kids asked, oh, what were you speaking up about? And as soon as I went to tell them, oh, about the logo change, I was told that I wasn't allowed to talk about that in school. We weren't offered a survey. And I just feel like we're not educating or giving people equal opportunities to be like said that this is a fair vote. And also, one last thing that I would like to add is like, I feel like it's very weird that we keep calling
20 seconds.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
I just like, I don't know. It's like this whole situation is very annoying to me. And I feel like people are trying so hard, like white people are trying so hard to be oppressed, and it's frustrating. I don't understand how this logo is upsetting to you or affecting you if you're not American Indian. And that's all.
Thank you. Who do we have next? Benny Wheat.
Hi, Benny Wheat, 44 Miriam Street. And I'm speaking tonight for myself and not for any of the groups that I'm a member of. I'm in favor of changing the school sports logo to one that celebrates Wakefield and does not denigrate Native Americans. Native logos and mascots have been shown to harm Indigenous youth, as many other people have been mentioning tonight. And no amount of school pride is worth harming students, especially students who already carry with them histories of oppression at the hands of dominant society and our government. I've heard a lot of people say that the warrior logo is a symbol that represents our history and honors and respects Native Americans, but I truly cannot understand in what ways it represents our history or respects Native Americans. So I have a couple points I want to make about that. So what does it mean to represent our history? Whose history does this caricature represent? What is the specific culture that is being depicted? And the answer is that no specific culture or nation is being depicted here. So it's a man's face with quote unquote war paint and a full feathered headdress. So this type of headdress, generically speaking, is worn by Plains Indians and would not be found as part of the regalia of the native people of our region. For cultures who use quote unquote war paint, the colors, patterns, and symbology are very specific and are sacred traditions. So the warrior logo does not represent a specific culture, and certainly no culture that is relevant to our history in this region. And the logo also misrepresents, it takes out of context and makes light of ancient and sacred spiritual traditions. We use it gives the Wakefield sports teams a sense of pride and unity and strength. But to do this, we take from other cultures. We pick and choose what we like. We kind of mishmash it all together and create something that makes us feel something that we crave, but with no respect to the cultures we are taking from or to the wishes of their people. But the logo does effectively represent some histories: the history of settler colonialism, the history of cultural genocide, the history of dehumanization. And I do believe that it is important for us all to really learn those histories and to really learn the beautiful and complex histories and current lives of Native people. But the warrior logo does neither of those things. It harms the few for the benefit of the many. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, who do we have next? Oh, Peter Saul. Okay, right, sorry. Peter Saul.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Can't see me though. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, Peter Saul, 104 Bennett Street. I'm voicing my support to change the Wakefield Warriors mascot. Sorry, one second. To something that does not depict a Native American. Frankly, I wasn't sure if it was offensive, but I suspected as much, so I reached out to some Native American civil organizations and found that it is offensive, and there are even efforts to pass legislation to remove Native American mascots from public schools. I also encourage anybody who's interested to reach out to the National Congress of American Indians, NCAI, the oldest, largest, and most representative national organization serving tribal nations and peoples. NCAI has been working for the past 50 years to educate about the harms these mascots cause, and it has passed many binding resolutions on the subject. And then you can just Google them if you want to contact them. And it's not just the one organization that opposed Native mascots. Rather, over 1,500 national Native organizations and advocates have called for a ban on all Native imagery, names, mascots, terms, red face, arrows, feathers, and appropriation of Native culture and sports. Regarding the damage that these images caused, the damage caused by the use of Native American mascots, particularly in an academic context, was stated by the Society of Indian Psychologists in 1999, and I quote, "Stereotypical and historically inaccurate images of Indians in general interfere with learning about them by creating, supporting, and maintaining oversimplified and inaccurate views of Indigenous peoples and their cultures. When stereotypical representations are taken as factual information, they contribute to the development of cultural biases and prejudices, clearly a contradiction to the educational mission of the university. In the same vein, we believe that the continuation of the use of Indians as symbols and mascots is incongruous with the philosophy espoused by many Americans as promoting inclusivity and diversity." End quote. In 2005, the American Psychological Association issued a resolution, quote, recommending the immediate retirement of American Indian mascots, symbols, images, and personalities by schools, colleges, universities, etc., due to the harm done by a hostile environment, the negative impact on the self-esteem of American Indian children, and discrimination that they may violate civil rights. And it goes on and on. Changing our mascot to something not related to Native peoples is not setting a precedent and not a recent trend. Should Wakefield decide to change the Warriors mascot, will be in good company. Over the last 50 years, many thousands of schools and sports teams have changed their mascots with no adverse negative effect.
20 seconds.
Okay, so I'll skip over that part. In summary, Native mascots like the Wakefield Warriors need to change because such imagery is offensive and harmful. Many schools and teams have changed their mascots with no adverse negative effects. And many Native American organizations have called for an end to Native mascots, along with many social sciences organizations.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Michelle Toppy. Michelle. Okay. We're going to see if she loads up here and then. Okay, Michelle, we're having trouble getting you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there she is. Whoa. Just
I don't know why
in the nick of time, Michelle. You were saved. Okay.
I don't know why you can't see me, but you can hear me.
We can
All
hear
right.
you. So name and address, please.
Sure. Michelle Toppy, 53 Greenwood Avenue.
Okay.
The debate over the Wario logo spanning the past weeks troubles me. The continuous spreading of misinformation regarding the Youth Council's position on the logo is frustrating. The Youth Council's recommendation to the school committee was to change only the logo. Regardless of the logo that accompanies the treasured warrior name, Wakefield will remain a strong community. The term warrior has different meanings to all of us, and no one is looking to take that away. As a parent of multiple Wakefield athletes, I understand the pride the title brings to our sports teams. As a Wakefield community member, though, I understand that the logo belongs to our high school and its students. And while other community members may have their own opinions, the decision at hand ultimately affects them. The way people in our community have been treating each other on social media is disheartening. The Wakefield logo is close to many of our hearts as parents, students, and Wakefield community members. Wakefield is not wholly represented in a high school logo. While we can be prideful in our reputation in the academic and athletic domains as warriors, Wakefield should be known as a kind and accepting town. Though our connections to and opinions on the logo may differ, there is no reason for community members from either side of this debate to be disrespectful simply because they disagree. I want to encourage everyone to be respectful with their comments as we move forward. If we are not able to foster civil conversation on this topic, how can we expect our children and young people watching us to do the same? As this process moves forward, we must listen to the students of Wakefield High School, even if we don't agree with them. Much of the dialogue I have witnessed has been focused on past experiences of parents and other adults in our community, even though the students at Wakefield High are the people being represented by this logo. Over the past year, it has become evident that students in our school community are leading change. As more students speak up regarding inequity and injustice, it is important that we listen to them with the same respect we use with other adults. Our children are the future of our community as well as others as they grow and move away. It is important that the adults in their lives be good role models. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sophia Smokes, I believe. Smokes. Sophia. Okay. I understand Sophia's on her way. Sophia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hi, Sophia Goslin-Smosky, 23 West Water Street.
Okay.
I'm a graduate, 2020 graduate of Wakefield High, and I'm still learning about the world. I'm only 19 years old, but Wakefield has taught me to do the right thing. That's our motto, and to be kind. And part of being kind is being able to empathize with people, to hear their feelings towards things, and to understand that that's how change happens for the better. And it's clear that Native Americans do not want their people to be portrayed as their mascot. And this may seem like an extrapolation for some, but imagine if other groups of people were represented the way that Native Americans are. Say we had groups or mascots that were Mexican or the Jews. That might make people uncomfortable, but how is that any different for Native Americans? And I know that people's intents aren't bad. It's not, they don't meaningfully try to display these people as being savage or aggressive in any way. I know that that's not the intention, but we need to understand that these people have a culture and that we're not representing that culture appropriately, and that we should be on the right side of history. There really shouldn't be a debate. We should be listening to these people, hear what they have to say, and then changing that. Wakefield's values aren't going to change with a different mascot. They are going to be the same. It's just going to be more inclusive to all. And that's all.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Sheila Erickson. Sheila. Yeah. Takes a while for these to load in the control room. So, Sheila?
Can you hear me?
There we are.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Okay.
Right.
You want to give your name and address, please?
Yeah, my name is Sheila Erickson. I live at 12 Converse Street. I grew up in Wakefield. I attended Wakefield High School, and I'm now looking forward to my children attending Wakefield Public Schools. I am firmly in favor of changing the mascot for many reasons mentioned here tonight. So I'd like to actually use my time to read a statement from the National Congress of American Indians, because I believe that they can speak to it better than I can. So this statement is in relation to the retirement of the Washington Redskins mascot. And the Washington Redskins mascot is actually very similar to the current Wakefield Warrior mascot. So I think this is a very relevant statement. Here we go. Today is a day for all Native people to celebrate. We thank the generations of tribal nations, leaders, and activists who worked for decades to make this day possible. We commend the Washington NFL team for eliminating a brand that disrespected, demeaned, and stereotyped all Native people. And we call on all other sports teams and corporate brands to retire all caricatures of Native Americans that they use as their mascots. We are not mascots. We are Native people, citizens of more than 500 tribal nations who have stood strong for millennia and overcome countless challenges to reach this pivotal moment in time when we can help transform America into the just, equitable, and compassionate country our children deserve. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Michelle Mcnall. I think I have that correct.
Who did you call on? I'm sorry.
Michelle Mcnall. Is that you?
Oh, okay. That's me. Yes, thank you.
All right. You want to give us your name and address, please?
Sure. Michelle Mcnall, 25 Park Street.
Okay, you're up.
Thank you. So I just have a few points that I want to arise, and I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to be very brief. So the first thing is getting clear on logo versus mascot. I know we've belabored the point, but some people still continue to throw mascot into the ring, and that is incorrect. We have a logo, not a mascot. What we, the supporters, are advocating for, and I am just one of many, this is history. It's the history of our town. It's a gift from the Baird family, who are true, authentic Native Americans that inhabited this town and have instilled a lot of our values here. And I think that getting rid of this is erasing a part of them. And they are Native Americans. I am not. A lot of people on this call are not. This is more than a logo to a majority of us. I know to a select few, it's just a logo. But this is a lot more to a lot of people, especially myself. Doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or not. The current logo being used is not the one that we are advocating for, by the way. It's not clear when this modern logo came to be, but if it's considered offensive, then just do away with that one and bring back the old original one. There was nothing wrong with that, so I don't even know why that disappeared anyway. you know, and 4, the subject is being pinned on the youth council. And I just want to say, I appreciate what the youth council is trying to do as far as making our schools a more inclusive place. I think it's amazing, and I support these students 100%. However, is removing the Warrior logo and discontinuing its use really going to achieve making Wakefield a non-discriminatory place? It's only one example, but a bright young African-American girl who we've heard from earlier this evening, she's a student in our schools, and she spoke and said that students were never asked their opinion. She also is part of a minority group, and she, on the last call, said that she was discriminated against, which is absolutely horrible. And, you know, did the Warrior logo cause this? I don't think so. So how is this going to address what's happening to that person? You know, it's funny how those in favor are in favor to support the students of this youth council, but zero regard for the students who walked those halls and passed through those doors of Wakefield High School. I think every student, past and present, deserves their right to vote on this. And so I appreciate you having this, this venue here. The other thing is, who pays for all the logo I'm doing? So if we get rid of this Warrior logo, what
20
about the
seconds.
class of 1990? Do they get their money back? Sean Beasley's family, do they get their money back? Certainly better not be the town payers, because I mean, the taxpayers want this. We're in favor of it. So, you know, that's my last point that I want to make. So agree to disagree.
Thank you. Next, we have Christy Mcnall, I believe. Okay, got it. Christy Mcnall. She on the way? Oh, there you go.
Yep, I'm here.
Hi. Your name and address, please?
Christy Mcnall, 25 Park Street.
Okay, thanks. You're up.
All right. So I just want to say that I think that this whole thing is going way too far than it actually has to go. The reality of it is that every student that's in the high school right now is eventually going to become alumni. So the every child that you're looking at who wants to make a difference, I appreciate their opinion, but at the same rate, if they're seniors, they are now going to be alumni. And as what most of the school committee is showing is that alumni's opinions don't matter. So you're only going to take their opinion in for this year. So next year, new students should get a say. So every 4 years, it should be up to the freshmen then who get a say in what the school is going to look like if that's the case, that alumni's opinions don't matter whatsoever. Also, where is alumni, townspeople, the Warrior logo and the name Warrior signifies this town? The simple solution would be let the kids vote and let the townspeople vote, and the majority of the vote wins. So if the favor ends up going to removal of the logo, then so what? At least everyone got a fair opinion and a fair vote. That would just be the simple solution. I would also like to say I am in all support of educating our students and educating our town on the Native American tribes, because I think that should be brought more to light. But I would also like to say everyone's so concerned about them being oppressed and whatever, but a lot of tribes own casinos, and that's promoting gambling, that's promoting drinking, that's promoting a lot of really bad things. So if they're really that concerned about what their image looks like, I think that they would be more concerned with casinos that are representing addiction as opposed to a town representing them on sports teams to try to go in and honor them. Also, if you're going to go with that, and like all the animals that are mascots should probably be asked too, because they're voiceless. So if we're really going to go with that, then there should be no mascots in the world at all, because you can't physically get permission from every single type of mascot there is. People who are huskies, are you going to ask every husky if they feel oppressed? So it just doesn't really make sense. Also, in the school community, the issue should be within the school. If there is one of the students that spoke tonight, you know, she is African American and she has been called some nasty words, and I think that should be addressed more
20
than logo.
seconds.
In terms of like the culture in the school, I think it all comes back to upbringing. Everyone needs to be nice to each other. And I don't think removing a logo is going to get the job done of everyone being inclusive and nice to each other. That comes to your own character. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right. I think next we have Chicky Taylor. Am I correct, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Chicky, you're up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You want to give us your
Okay.
name and address,
Yeah.
please?
Well, my real name is Frances Taylor, 9 Old Nahant Road.
Okay.
I've lived here 30 years. I've had 2 boys who graduated from Wakefield High, Wakefield Warriors. And I've heard a lot of talk about, caring about Native Americans. But I'd like to ask how many people, what have they actually done? All these people who talked about all this history and all this baloney, what have you done to actually honor Native Americans? I myself have gone out to many Native American, all the land out there in Montana and in South Dakota, and I saw firsthand what it looked like. And I think they would be insulted if they thought the way people really see them out there is drunken stupors. So my interpretation of a warrior, though, that's how I view them, as warriors, as people, proud people who fought off the government and whoever else tried to steal their land. And we gave them land, we gave them the worst land. We put them on reservations. We didn't really honor them, but I want to know who's going to honor them now. And I am for the old logo. I am for the old logo because I think it is a symbol of honor. That's how we can continue to honor Native people in this town and even across the whole country for that matter. And I'd like to know, again, you people who are so concerned about Native Americans, I want to know how you will honor them beyond Wakefield, Massachusetts. It's not just your words, it's your actions that count. And I think we could have avoided all this if somebody talked about being inclusive, but this wasn't an inclusive thing. I didn't find out about this till just a couple of weeks ago. Half the town was not included in it. It's time to include the town. I think the best thing that the committee could do is put it to a vote, and that will settle it, like some other people have said. Leave the choice up to the people of the town. That is honoring all citizens of Wakefield, not just one side who quoted a lot of things that they read off a Native American site someplace. That's all I want to say. Put it to a vote. Thank you very much for listening.
Am I getting this right? Is it Elizabeth Atenza? Asenza, okay. Elizabeth Asenza.
Yeah, I just want to clarify though that
your name and address, please.
Can I clarify that there are no other Wakefield residents because I was asked to wait until the end?
No, excuse me. Can you just say your name and address? It's very simple before you start.
Yeah, my name is Elizabeth Asenza. I live at 192 Florence Street in Roslindale. I was asked to wait until the end.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But if it's okay, I'll speak now.
Yeah, you're all set. Ready? You got the rules, right? 3 minutes. I'll give you a warning at 20 minutes. Go ahead. 20 seconds.
Good evening. I'm the Reverend Elizabeth Asenza, and I'm here tonight because I'm the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Wakefield. I'm speaking in support of the work to change the Wakefield High School logo. The Massachusetts Indigenous Legislative Agenda has reaffirmed their call for a ban on Indigenous mascots. 5 separate Indigenous tribes in our Commonwealth have written letters asking for the retirement of Indigenous mascots. I understand this to include logos. In my time working in Wakefield, I have come to learn that this is a town of people who care deeply and are invested in one another. It is our moral, ethical responsibility to listen to the harms cited by local Indigenous groups and work to reduce that harm however we can. They have clearly asked that we stop reducing Indigenous cultures to team names, logos, and mascots. My UU congregation knows that I say over and over that love doesn't leave anyone out. This is our highest ideal to which we strive. Our Indigenous neighbors, friends, and family are being left out. And we have a responsibility to shift our actions and our logo to make space for them. On a more personal note, I know that it's hard to let go of symbols that contain our memories. In 1995, my high school decided to create a team name and mascot for the first time. A contest was held and my small group won. We got a prize, our name became the high school team name, and we celebrated. I was proud of my part in this school-wide change and the creation of history. At some point in recent years, students decided that that team name no longer worked for them, and they changed it. And that was sad for me. The story that I was part of was coming to a close, but I am no longer a student at that school. I am not a member of that board. I can hold my memories and celebrate that the current students have a team name that works well for them. It is time to let Wakefield High School students build new memories with a logo that meets their needs and which is not harmful to Indigenous students and neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have Amy Wall up next. Okay. All right. Amy
Hello.
Wall, name and address, please.
Amy Wall, 23 Elm Street. Good evening. I'm a lifelong Wakefield resident who is also raising children in the community. I speak tonight to show my support for having the Wakefield Warrior logo. To me, a warrior is someone strong, someone fierce, someone kind, someone willing to stand up and do what's right, someone who shows both grace and dignity. Personally, I support the old logo, which I believe was created with both respect of Native Americans and honor of Wakefield's long history. Importantly, I encourage continued open dialogue regarding the logo, which is clearly an important issue for many in this town. Everybody deserves to be heard. Everybody's opinions are important, and only through a process that enables all of us to speak will we be able to come to a resolution on this issue. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Ryan, who do we have next? Jennifer Smith. Yeah, okay. Jennifer Smith? She's not showing up? Okay. Sue Hers? Oh, Jennifer Smith. By the luck of the draw, where'd you go? There you go. You have to unmute yourself, Jennifer Smith. Yeah, Jennifer, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to unmute. Ready? Unmute. There you go. Hello? I don't know. Jennifer Smith. Going once. Going twice. Yeah, I can see you, but I can't hear you. There you go. Okay. Who's next? Sue Hers. Okay. Yeah, we can't get Jennifer. We're having trouble getting. Can't hear you, Jennifer. Sorry. Sue Hers.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. I just have to say, I'm really
so
moved.
you want to give your name and address first,
I'm
please?
sorry. Sue Hers, 82 Main Street.
Okay.
And just a comment that I'm just moved by the thoughtful comments tonight, and it's sort of like the best of what America has to offer. I'm wearing my hat as a member of the Wakefield Anti-Racism Group. I didn't know about the 3-minute limit, my bad, so I will just cut short the letter that we wrote together. We can call them logos, we can call them mascots, we can call them images. We have good intentions. We talk about our personal history, our family history, our town history, our very identity. We cite members of the single Native American family that agrees with us. Whether we name the picture of a fighting Native American warrior a logo or a mascot, we pour our words, our intentions, our history into a blender, producing a mix that says it's just not the right time for Wakefield to change. Rinse and repeat. It's just not the right time for Wakefield. History tells us that white Europeans were the warriors. History tells us that after Native Americans lived in the Lake Quinnipiac area for some 10,000 years, 7 white European families settled here in the year 1644, and then systematically brought disease and violent death to the area's peaceful people, and then declared the victims the aggressors. Therefore, if a warrior's face belongs in our town's imagery, sadly, it should be a European's face. But to this day, we pretend Native Americans were the fighters. Should we be honest about this? Should we teach these painful truths to our students? No, we say it's not the right time for Wakefield. Moreover, Native American men are not any more warrior-like than our Irish, Italian, Canadian, or Norwegian American men, to name a few other ethnicities or people, women and men. Should we acknowledge this fact? Not the right time for Wakefield, we say. So with each graduating class, with each generation, more history becomes associated with this degrading, damaging logo. And we risk inviting future generations to dig in their heels and claim it's not the right time for Wakefield. So maybe the answer is that it's not the right time for Wakefield, and maybe the answer is, if not now, when? We strongly encourage the school committee to do the right thing.
Thank you. I think we have Myra Sessions next. Is that correct, Ryan? Thank you. Myra Sessions. You're on mute. Can't hear you, Ryan or Myra. Hello, Myra. Yeah, she's well on into her spiel and we can't hear her. Myra? Unmute? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Technical
all right.
difficulties.
Success.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. Can you give us your name and address, please?
Yes, I'm Myra Sessions. I'm at 40 Richardson Street in Wakefield.
Okay.
I wanted to start by really thanking the school committee for this forum. I think it's been a really fascinating discussion. I've been watching this debate pretty closely over the course of the last couple months. I've been really reading all the content that came out to us. I was really impressed. For example, there were many emails from the Wakefield Public Schools. There were lots of communication on Facebook. There was lots of communication from the town around this forum, and I really thank you for sort of being so proactive. I will say I was especially impressed by the history of the mascot that was sent out by Wakefield Public Schools, I think yesterday, the day before, and really sort of was enlightening about the history that's gone into this current logo. And so while I understand the history and I understand the attachment and I understand the pride that people feel in the logo, I don't think we should pretend like this logo has been a static object or a static logo or a static representation of what our town has meant to people. I have 2 kids. My husband and I are raising 2 kids in the Woodville school system, in Wakefield specifically. And we, like some of the other Woodville parents, Go Bears, that have talked today, I mean, we see this incredible spirit of diversity and cultural and openness from our school system, and we're really proud of that. And so I feel like we're sort of at a crossroads here. I think this has been a really open forum. I think there's been a lot of voices heard. I think it's time to make a choice as a community, to listen to our students, to listen to our community members, to listen to all the voices we can gather. I know you all are working on a panel also with some Native American voices that we can hear from. And I thank you for that effort. And I really encourage you to listen and to hear and then to make a choice, because let's not pretend. I mean, I have no envy for you all that are on the school committee and the huge other decisions we have facing our town. We have a budget, we have a COVID response, we have a changing dynamic, we have a new high school, which we're all really excited about. And so I am overwhelmingly thankful, and I'm thankful for the learning experiences has been, and been able to participate actively as a member of the community. And I really support you taking what everyone has shared with you and their opinions and moving forward to a choice. So thank you very much. And thank you for your work, school committee, as well as Wakefield Public Schools, in coming up with a new logo option that I think would be really wonderful. I think it's really time for this logo to go, so that we have a logo and an image that we project to the world that really represents our future and represents our values of diversity and inclusion that we all feel here in our town. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to give Jennifer Smith one more shot here. Jennifer? Hello? Huh. Jennifer, can you hear me? No. Okay. We're going to try her one more time. I'd like to point out I couldn't do this by myself at home anyway. That's why I came down here. Just for those of you who are having difficulty, I'm a Hall of Fame Luddite. Okay. All right, so we've given everybody one shot here. And before I turn it back to Amy for closing remarks, as usual, which I always say during the debates and always say during town meeting, we have a fabulous resource in WCAT. They put this together, on short notice. It's been a little, we've had to, work around some stuff here. It's not like their usual smooth production. But I always want to thank these guys. It's their, I see these, whenever I'm somewhere else, I always look at local cable TV when I'm clicking through, just to, having spent some time down here and been on the board for a while. So I really do want to thank those guys for doing it. And I myself want to thank the school committee for, attempting to deal with this difficult situation. Amy, you want to wrap things up?
I do.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Bill. You did a great job. And it's nice to know that you also are technically challenged like me.
Oh, yeah. No, I have to be worse. So.
Well, I'm not sure about that. We'll have to discuss that later. But I would really just like to take this time to thank everyone for participating in this public forum, and thank all of those who have reached out to the school committee via email as well. I would also just like to remind everyone that our next school committee meeting is Tuesday, March 9th. And I would also just encourage everyone who may not have been able to contact us this evening to reach out on any additional issues or concerns that you may have via email. We are all here, willing and able to listen. And it's always appreciated and extremely helpful for all of us on the school committee to hear from our residents in town. So thank you again very much for taking the time out this evening to participate in our event. Susie, do we have a motion to adjourn?
You even get me on this one. Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of February 25th, 2021. Mike, second me.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, second. I'm sorry.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Judy, do we have a roll call?
Ms. Purcell.
Yes.
Ms. Baer.
Yes.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Ms. Guida.
Yes.
Mr. Boudreau.
Yes.
Dr. Burns.
Yes.
And Mr. Liakos.
Yes.
Thank you. So that concludes the public forum for this evening. I hope you all have a great night, and thank you again for joining.
Thanks,
Good night,
Bill,
everyone.
very much.